type of hosts. Earlier in the previous class, we are seeing what is a parasite and what can be different types of a parasite based on their uh, based on their location. Sometimes they can be accidental, sometimes they can be aberrant parasites, sometimes they can be uric genus parasites, which are broad host range, or sometimes they can be stenogenous parasites, which are narrow host range, and sometimes they are indirect parasites. Some are having indirect means heterogeneous parasites, some are heterogeneous parasite and different, so and so forth. Parasites we have discussed. In today's class, I would like to discuss the different types of hosts. You see, there are actually two types of hosts, I would say, but in addition to this one, I'm going to say some other types of hosts, but mostly there will be two types of hosts. One is definitive host, intermediate host, and in addition to what I have said, that there could be accidental or sometimes paratenic hosts and all these. But let us first of all clear the concept about definitive host and intermediate host. Then later on we can deduce what are the additional type of hosts. Okay, the first one is definitive host. From the word you can say definite means it must be. But let's see what I have written and I'll explain it. It is a type of host which I have written red mark here, sexual maturity. These things I have explained to you in the previous class also. Where there is sexual maturity, that means where the parasite is capable of producing the next generation. Sometimes it can be an egg, sometimes it can be larva, sometimes it can be an oocyst. Okay, so where there is uh, the host which harvests or the host which carries a stage of a parasite which are sexually mature. I have told you that in case of parasitology or in case of lower invertebrates, their aim and their agenda or their motto is what? Reproduction. They don't care about nervous system. They don't care about digestive system. They have very primitive form of digestive system. Let me give an example. In case of tapeworm, which every one of us are familiar, or sometimes in case of fluke, they have a minimal or very simplest type of digestion in the sense, yes, digestive system in the sense that they absorb nutrients through their surroundings via or through their tegumen. That means through their skin. In general terms, we can say, but scientifically, we'll say tegumen. Okay, so that means they absorb nutrients through their tegumen, through some process of these things, so through some cellular absorption process. But in case of human being or higher vertebrate, we eat in our mouth and pass out through anal opening. But they do not have such. And sometimes our nervous system is very well developed. Our musculature system, muscle system is developed. Endocrine system is developed, and so on and so forth. But in case of parasites or in general, in case of lower invertebrates, many a times their agenda or their aim and their motto or their goal, so it is reproduction. That means where there is sexual maturity of the parasite, the host is called as a definitive host. Let's read the sentence. Please read with me. It is a type of host where there is maturity of the parasite and undergoing reproduction. Thus, as I told you that the definitive host will shed or carries the egg. That means from the definitive host, in the fishes or in the blood or in whatever the parasite locate, there will be the next generation of the parasite. Okay, so sometimes for helminths it will be the egg, sometimes for protozoa it is the oocyst, sometimes for one type of helminth it is microfilaria. Okay, so this will be passed out in the environment or sometimes they will enter in the next host, that is the intermediate host. Okay, so I want you to be very clear about it. I'm going to ask this one in exam. What is a definitive host or Tell me on what background one can differentiate definitive host and intermediate host. I'm going to ask this one in exam. Please put 5 star in your notes. Okay. I'm repeating, it is a type of host where there is sexual maturity of the parasite, where there is production of the next generation of the parasitic stage, such as the egg, the oocyst, the microfilaria, or different types of the protozoa, which will be subsequently passed out in the environment or which will be, for example, sheep, buffalo, goat, cattle is an definitive host for Fasciella gigantica. The next stage or the next host, the next type of host is an intermediate host. Here it is a host which carries certain intermediate stage or certain developmental stage. It is a type of host which carries certain developmental stage or certain intermediate stage of the parasite, but not sexually mature. Now comes an important one. It is extremely important for the propagation and distribution of the various different stages of the parasite. Also, how does we differ? In case of definitive host, it is the adult parasite. In case of intermediate host, it is the intermediate state. Okay, but here one point is that it is carry certain developmental states of the parasite where this point is going to be important, where there is propagation. That means, let me give an example here. Snail is an intermediate host for Fasciella gigantica. Snail. Snail is an intermediate host for Fasciella gigantica. The stage that is entering into the snail is a miracidium of Fasciella gigantica. Do not get lost by the names right now. I'm going to explain very clearly about when we come and discuss Fasciella. But right now, what you have to understand is, what you have to know and mark it is, the miracidium stage enter. Inside the snail, it will develop into sporosis, redia, and cercaria. So subsequently, the snail is developing or propagating certain stage of the parasite. So these are not sexually mature parasites. Therefore, we call them as intermediate hosts. I hope I am clear. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Are you still there? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hmm. Now comes a little bit different. This is another one is paratenic host. Let me put a pointer here. Paratenic host. What is paratenic host? It is also a type of host where it carries the certain intermediate stage, but it is not in this host. There is no development, or there is no, what should I say? There is no cyclical development. It is just, it is important for mere encysment. There is no further development of the parasite into the next stage. I'm going to the previous slide. Here in this case, I told you that in case of intermediate host, what stage enter? Miracidium enter, and it will develop into sporosis, redia, and cercaria. But in case of paratenic host, let me give an example. For the case of Toxocara canis, L2 stage enter, and it will stay in L2 stage without any development. That means the paratenic host is a type of host where the parasite utilizes for mere encysment without any development. Is it clear? Okay, I believe it is clear. It is for mere encysment. Here I have written in red point, red color. It is without any development. All right. Now comes reservoir host. It is a type of host which will carry certain pathogenic parasites, but that will not carry any clinical signs and symptoms. What? It will not carry any clinical signs and symptoms. But this is really going to be important for the epidemiology of the parasite, in the sense that This sort of mm, what should I say? This sort of host will act as a vessel or a distributing agent for the another susceptible host. I'm going to give an example. Trypanosoma. There is one in class 12 you have heard. You might have heard sleeping sickness. Have you ever heard sleeping sickness? African sleeping sickness, which is caused by Trypanosoma gambiense, Trypanosoma rhodesiense. You have heard or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, Trypanosoma, there is one type of Trypanosoma in India that is present, that is Trypanosoma evansi. That is not zoonotic, fortunately. So the host, that means the susceptible hosts are mostly dog, horse, and equine. Sorry, camel. Sorry, horse, dog, and camel. They will show a severe form of a disease, but cattle and buffalo will also carry the parasites in their bloodstream, but they would not show much clinical signs and symptoms. So their importance of cattle, I mean the importance of cattle and buffalo is this will be the reservoir or this will be the carrying vessel or the disseminating agent for horse, for dog, or camel. Okay, here I also have written down cattle and buffalo act as a RH, reservoir host for trypanosoma infection for the case of camel, dog, and horse. Is it clear? Now comes vector. Vector are actually a sort of what should I say, intermediate host we can say, but these are mostly blood-sucking arthropods, which will carry which will carry a parasite from one susceptible host to another. Okay, so there can be biological vector, mechanical vector, all these things we will talk about in protozoology class. But right now, I hope this is clear. This is enough. Vector. Vector is a type of arthropod which carries or which transmits an infectious agent from one host to another host. In Mizoram, we nowadays in this few months back, I mean, from the beginning of this year, so to say, we have African swine fever that is very deadly and the situation is grim actually. So that is, of course, it is transmitted from pig to pig directly, but there is one vector which is known as a type of tick, which is a soft tick or Ornithodorus. Okay, so these are blood-sucking arthropods which will carry the infectious agent from by maybe protozoa, maybe bacteria, or maybe viruses. So they may carry the infectious agent from one host to another host. These vectors are also really, really crucial and important, or we can say pivotal, for the epidemiology of a parasite. Once African swine fever virus infests the Ornithodorus or a tick of Mizoram, there is no turning back. Who will go and destroy all the ticks of the forest? Not possible, not at all possible. We can kill the pig, domestic pig. We can somehow disseminate the virus in the domestic system, but who will do in wild, right? So this kind of host, like vector or reservoir host, are really, really pivotal or crucial, we can say, for the epidemiology of any type of infectious disease. Sorry. Natural host. It is a type of definitive host only where the parasite would attain sexual maturity. Okay, now comes another terminology that is anthelmintic tract. What is the meaning of helminth? Helminth is it is the name is derived from Greek word helmis or helminthos. Okay, so that It literally means worms. So anthelmintic means anti-helmintic also sometimes people used to say. Uh, write down here. Sometimes they even write anti-helmin, sorry. They even write anti-helmintic duck also. Or anthelmintic they might broadly also say. It is a drug or a chemical compound which work against various helmin parasites. I'm repeating what are anthelmintic drugs. It is just like antibiotic we have, or antimicrobial we have, antiviral we have. Anthelmintic drugs are anti-helmintic drugs. Anthelmintic drugs means anti-helmin compound. Okay. One type of compound is endectocytes. These are a type of compound which work against both endoparasites and ectoparasites. In case of antihelminth, it will work only on endoparasites, but endectocytes are effective against both endoparasites or and as well as ectoparasites. So, for example, is ivermectin, which work against roundworm and against various mange infection or mite infection or tick infestation. Okay, ivermectin. The discovery of ivermectin is really an important and crucial. So, due to their discovery of the two scientists, one is mm, Ian Fleming from Iris, and another one is Sus, Susumbura. I forgot his name. Let me just say S. Omura. Omura. S. Omura. Due to their discovery of this drug, they were awarded a Nobel Prize in the year 2016. 2016. Recently only, they were awarded a Nobel Prize on medicine and physiology due to their discovery of ivermectin. Nowadays, ivermectin is used against even in COVID-19 also. In Mizoram also they have used, but I do not know other states. But in Mizoram, ivermectin is used. This commensalism, symbiosis, mutualism, I'm not going to explain it. You guys, you can go through yourself. This is actually class 11, 12 standard. That's why I've just put the definition and what do I mean by that. And now comes the last point. What is parasitism? It is a parasitism. It is an association between two organisms where the parasite depends metabolically on the host. I'm going to ask this one in exam. What is parasitism? It is an association between two organisms where the parasite depends metabolically on the host. In case of Foraceae, there is no medical dependency. There is no metabolic dependency. It is a mere transportation. In case of mutualism, it is for mutual benefit. But in case of parasitism, the host is on the side of losing, but the parasite is on the side of gaining. Gain in the sense that they obtain nutrient from the host, number one. Number two is that they also seek a shelter in various body parts of the host. Okay. Symbiosis, it is a relationship where two organisms live together, benefiting from each other. Okay. So, but in case of parasitism, uh, it is association where the parasite depend metabolically on the host with the expense of the health of the host. It's not that the host is not on the side of losing. I mean, it is on the side of losing. The host is on the side of losing because the parasite will compete the host for nutrients, or they would cause various pathogenic conditions. Now comes pre-patent period, patent period, incubation period, and epidemiology and zoonotic parasites. I'm going to explain right now. Okay, what is the meaning of pre-patent period? Pre-patent period means it is the period from the day of entry let's say 0 day. On this day, that is what is today. It is 7th October 2021. One sort of parasite enter on a pig or let's say on a cattle, and after 10 days, the cattle start to show clinical signs and symptoms. So what is the pre-patent sorry, after 10 after that is the incubation period. I'm going to explain it once again. It is a pre-patent period means it is the day of entry from the day of entry, that is 0 day, to the appearance of the first or the next generation parasite. That means from this day it enters, and after 21 days, let's say 21 days, you can see a helminth egg or parasitic egg in the fishes. From the 0 day to 21 days, it is the pre-patent period. Okay, so what is the meaning of patent period? Means from the production of the first stage, first generation parasite to the life of a parasite. It is the length of time where the adults are viable inside the host. Okay, I'm going to explain it once again. The pre-patent period means it is the day of entry to the appearance of the first production of the oocyst or the egg. Okay, that means on 21st on 20 day or on 19 day, the parasite started to mature. On 21st day, they started to shed, they started to excrete, or they started to void out the next generation. Okay, so the patent period means from the first day of emergence of the the next generation till the parasite is alive. Okay, so that is the pre-patent period and the patent period. Patency means adulthood. In parasitological terms, you can easily say it is adulthood. Now comes an incubation period. This is what I was telling you at the beginning. It is the day of entry to the appearance of the first clinical signs and symptoms. Let's say on 14th day, there is appearance of clinical signs and symptoms. So the incubation period means the day of entry to the appearance of the first clinical signs and symptoms. Okay, so this is the incubation period. Now comes what is epidemiology. They are going to discuss in public health, in epidemiology in detail, but I'll just give you an example. I mean, in a brief and easy way, understand it. It is the study of and analysis of the disease. It is a disease condition in relation to certain determinants like environmental factor, like temperature, whether this time of the year is, that means let's say at this time there is still rainfall. Rainfall is still there. The warmth is still there, 25 to 28 degrees centigrade, and relative humidity, of course, due to rainfall. There is vegetation in Selassie. So all these things we can determine the prevalence of a disease. So studying and analysis of the various determinants in relationship with a particular disease is known as epidemiology. So what is epidemiology? It is the study of and analysis of a disease in relation to its determinants like environmental fact, like temperature, like relative humidity, soil type, some rainfall, vegetation, season of the year, so and so forth. Altitude can be there, whether there will be a jungle or bushland, or whether there will be uh, what should I say, movement of the people. All these things can be analyzed together with the disease known as epidemiology. They're going to talk these things in public health in detail, so I'm not going in deep. Now comes zoonotic parasites. Okay, It is a parasitic disease which is transmitted or which is exchanged between human being and animal, or from animal to human being, or human to animal in its own natural way. In its own natural way. If you do not write in its own natural way, I'm not going to give you marks, which I have written. It could be accidental infection. Sometimes there is the parasites which are not zoonotic, but sometimes during accident, or I mean during a very rare situation, they can come to human being. They can give an infection to human being. So those type of infection, we do not call them zoonotic parasites or zoonotic disease. We call zoonotic disease when the disease condition is shared between animal and between human being, sorry, between animal and human being, from animal to human or from human to animal in its own natural way. Then only we will call them as zoonotic parasite or zoonotic disease. It's not that by chance for the last maybe 2000 years there is only one case of, let's say, one particular disease. That disease we will never call them as zoonotic. But if it happens time and again, the frequency is important. If it happens very often, then we will call them as natural way. That means it will reflect it as zoonotic parasites. I'm just going to give you nomenclature. I'm not going to go everything in detail. I'm going to mark some few points only. One is this parasite. It is the nomenclature is based on the nomenclature of the parasite, which every one of you are scared of. That I should say from the beginning, because your seniors should have said this knowing of scientific name is very difficult. I understand scientific name knowing is very difficult. But this is based, it's not what I compose, or it's not what Patosa have composed. It is based on the nomenclature of Linnaeus. So it belongs to kingdom Animalia. There are going to be two phylum that we are going to talk about in helminthology. One is Nemathelminthes and another is Platyhelminthes. I will take up Platyhelminthes and Patosa will take up Nemathelminthes. Okay, so under this Nemathelminthes there are two and under that one there is one subclass that we are interested, that is Sessionensia. So under Sessionensia there are four orders that we are going to study: Ascaridida, Strongylida, Raptidida, and Chirurida. These things Patosa will discuss. So I'm giving you one example that is under orders Strongylida. We have one superfamily Ankylostomatoidea, and under the family Ankylostomatidae. Family will end the name in IDAE. Please note it. This one I'm going to ask in fill up the blanks. The suffix of family is IDAE. I'm repeating. The suffix that is used for naming the name of a family is IDAE. Superfamily is IDEA. It is Ankylostomatoidea. But family is Ankylostomatidae. Here, I'm repeating, superfamily is Ankylostomatoidea. That means A is the last letter, but in case of family, E is the last letter. Ankylostomatidae. If there is subfamily, we used to call Ankylostomatidae. I have to write I here, Ankylostomatidae. And below the subfamily, we will have a genus. One is Ankylostoma. The species will be Ankylostoma caninum. Now comes from the beginning. I am going to warn you. I'm going to be very strict about writing the name of a scientific name. It should be written, the generic name, that is the genus name, should be written in capital letter and the species name should be written in small letter. Type form, that should be italic. But if you are using handwriting, if you're writing the name with handwritten, then you should underline it. Without that one, will not fetch mark. I'm repeating, without writing in the proper rule of writing the scientific name, don't expect me to give you mark. So here also, Ankylostoma caninum, I have put in italic. I have not put capital of the caninum C. I have only put A, that is in capital, which is the generic name. Snow pet, I will just discuss this one, and I will, and the pathogenic effect I will discuss in the next class. That is on the next Monday. Okay. Snow pet. Snow pet means, please write it, standard nomenclature of animal parasitic disease. Please write it. Snow pet means standard nomenclature of animal parasitic diseases. Standard nomenclature of animal parasitic diseases. So you cannot just say whatever the names of the parasitic disease condition. Okay, which is formed by WAAVP. No need to know this one. It is World Association for the Advancement of Veterinary Parasitology. So you don't need to know that. But at least you should know what is SNOPET, Standard Nomenclature of Animal Parasitic Diseases. So they have given the names because earlier, based on different region, they used to give name, different types of names, and it is very confusing. Let me give an example here. Uh, in this scrub typhus, which is available, I mean, which is uh, in Southeast Asian countries, but the name is scrub typhus disease. But in Mizo, we call Randungse. So if I say Randungse, no, who will know it? Any one of you will know, apart from Mizo guys. Nobody of you will know what is Randungse. Okay, so the scientists are in opinion that let's have one standard nomenclature which will be advocated or which will be used, implemented by across the globe, which will be implemented across the globe. That's why there are names that are given. Okay, so if the generic name of the parasite ends with A, here you see, if the generic name of the parasite ends with A, in case of Trypanosoma fasciella, so this A should be removed and in place osis would be added. So the disease caused by Trypanosoma will be trypanosomosis. The disease caused by fasciella would be fasciolosis. Next is sometimes those parasites which ends with X. So in this case, they will remove these two. From it will be removed the last uh, consonant, till the last consonant, the last EX. E is vowel, X also will be removed. X will naturally it will be removed, and the last vowel also will be removed. So it will be demo, de, osis. Osis will be added. Pulex will be pulicosis. This pharynx will be this pharyngosis. I'm not going to ask this one in exam, but still then you must know it. Another one is in case of some case the whole scientific name or generic name is used. In case of hepatozoonosis, multiseptosis, or in case of ascaropsosis, this will be given. Okay. In some case, the certain names which are given locally is known worldwide. Like in case of malaria, everybody is familiar with malaria. Mysis, hydrosis, Sarra, Kumbri, these are known throughout the world. Okay, so with that one, we completed our our today's class. So those who have not dropped your attendance today, the attendance is around how many? 49. Okay, thank you guys. I'm going to end the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.